Now we want to look at non-profit organization performance measurement. Performance measurement for non-profit organization refer to a process that non-profit organization can use to develop performance measures, to report on performance, and to discover changes the organization needs to make to improve their overall performance. We said all organizations strive to achieve their missions effectively. For-profit enterprises typically focus on creating wealth for their shareholders, while non-profit organizations focus on achieving their social mission and meeting the needs of their stakeholders, many of whom excuse me, many of whom are individuals, government agencies, may have made financial contributions or have personal interest in the organization and its work, because NPOs rely primarily on the financial resources of the government agencies and private funders. They have a significant fiduciary responsibility to manage those resources effectively. So what we are saying here is basically is that we want to look at how non-profit organization can measure their performance. Of course, we know that in a profit-making organization, performance is usually measured by one of the measurements of performance is profitability. That is, we look at how are these organizations profitable, have they been able to declare dividend, how have they been able to treat their staffs or well, and so on, and all other variables. But in the case of non-performance organization, it is not the case because they are not profit making. And since they are not profit making, we have to look for other yardsticks to measure their performance apart from profitability, because we cannot use profitability to measure their performance because they are not into that is not the motive of their that is not the motive why they are set up. Unlike a private organization, the private organization is set up for the purpose of making profit. So definitely one of the yardsticks that we can use for a private organization is profitability. But for non-profit organization, the yardstick that we're going to use here is how are they able to meet up with their social needs? How are they able to meet up with their social needs? How are they able to contribute effectively to the growth of and to the growth of a society? How are they being able to carry out their duties effectively? How are they able to impact an organization well? And of course, the government agency, the funds, the grants that they get from government, which is their major source of income, how are they able to utilize this grant? Of course, we know that that is how these people get their money from. We see them, so we now need to understand. So we can measure their performance by looking at how they are able to get their grants, how they are able to perform well as a non-profit making entity, and how are they able also to influence the environment in which they are operating. How are they able to influence the environment in which they are operating? So these are the yardsticks that we can use to measure how a non-profit organization is doing well effectively and how they are adding values to their environment, and of course to the society at large through the money that they are getting as a grant from the government. So let's move on. We said here that performance measurement for non-profit organization help non-profit organization with this responsibility, as well as their responsibility to ensure that they meet the needs of their volunteers. To ensure that they meet the need of their volunteers. The reliance on external funding puts pressure on non-profit organizations to examine all expenditure and ensure that funds are used to support their missions. Accordingly, performance measurement for non-profit organization must be directly tied to the organization missions to assess how efficiently and effectively it is using its limited resources. So that is how we can measure the performance, like I said. Like for us to say that we are measuring the performance of non-profit organization, some of the things that we're looking at is that how are they making use of the little resources that they have, and then how are they able to use these resources effectively. So the next image that we're going to see, that's figure 1, it illustrates a 4-stage process for developing a non-profit organization performance measurement system. And it is important to remember that performance measurement is an interactive process and should be reviewed annually as part of the organization's strategic review. So as part of the organization strategic review, they should also endeavor to review how the organization is doing in terms of performance. They should be able to look at, okay, how is the organization doing in terms of performance? How are they faring? Have they been able to use their resources effectively and efficiently? So this is the figure 1. So there are 4 stages for non-profit organization performance measurement process. The stage 1 talks about the planning stage. That is, we are to review the mission, the vision and strategy. This is where we are also going to identify the user value proposition. We're also going to balance efficiency versus effectiveness. The stage 2, that's the strategy map. At this stage, we are going to start with the mission. We're going to choose the firm value proposition. We're going to choose the look of the map. We're going to choose the key stakeholder strategies. We're going to choose key financial strategies, and we're also going to choose the key internal process strategies. The stage 3, that's where we look at the balance scorecard. We're going to identify various measures. We're going to assign weight. We're going to balance the measures and set specific targets. Then stage 4, that's where we have the review and assess. This is where we are meant to manage the balance scorecard. We are also meant to evaluate results and targets, and we are supposed to examine results and the outcome and also adjust where necessary. So these are just basically the process. These are just basically the process that it is important for us to follow when we are evaluating how an organization is faring. When we are trying to evaluate how an organization is faring, especially when it is non-profit organization. So let's look at some of them. The first one, like we said it is important for us to plan. It's important for us to plan. So while many non-profit organizations already have strategic plans in place, reviewing these plans during the performance measurement for non-profit organization planning phase can be very useful. So the following steps are essential for effective performance measurement for non-profit organization planning. Number 1, which I call step 1 here, is to review mission, vision and strategy. Review the vision, review the mission and review the strategy. So the first step in the performance measurement process requires that the board of directors and management have a good understanding of the non-profit organization missions and vision. It is very important that both the board and the executive, they have a good understanding of the vision and the mission. What does the non-profit organization stands to achieve? What do we want to achieve in the long run? Who are our targets? Why are we in existence? Why are we in business? So it is important that non-profit organizations have this understanding. It is important that the shareholders and even the directors, the board in its entirety, they have a practical understanding of what all these things stands for and what the organization is looking forward to achieve in the long run. So we say that when the time comes for non-profit organization to make resource choices based on actual results, a complete understanding of their mission, vision, and strategy will help guide decisions. So the board will provide the non-profit organization's high-level strategy to management. management will be required to execute that strategy and report on performance. So while reviewing its current mission, and non-profit organizations board and management should reflect on the organization's past and ask two important questions. So there are two important questions that they must ask. The first question that they need to ask as management and as board of the team is that, how are we dealing with the problems our non-profit organization is faced with? And then, what is our unique role? What is our unique role? Those two questions are very important, because how are we dealing with the problems our NPO is faced with? We know that one of the problems that non-performance organizations face is the issue of finance. So it's the issue of finance, and we know that if the organization is well able to deal with finance, if the management and the board, they are well able to manage the source of finance, a non-profit organization will run smoothly, and they will be able to be effective and efficient in discharging their duties and responsibility. So the answer to the question will frame the mission and vision statement of the non-profit organization. So we said that an organization vision describe the social outcome to achieve. Describe the social outcome that the organization wants to achieve. It describes the social outcome, the major reason why the organization is existing. What do we want to achieve? That's what the mission tries to subscribe. So its mission, on the other hand, outlines the organization purpose, and the mission should include: 1, an explanation of the organization social service or product. An explanation of the organization social service or product. Secondly, which is important, is that the users or stakeholders groups that the organization aims to serve the organization as NPO sector. The users or stakeholder groups that the organization aims to serve as the organization NPO sector. Of course, we know that what we are trying to say here is that every non-profit organization, they have different sectors that they try to serve. We have some non-profit organizations that serve the women. We have some that serve the less privileged women. We have some non-profit organizations that serve autism. We have some non-profit organizations that serves children with disabilities. We have some non-profit organization that serves widows. We have some that they cater for just infants. We have some that just cater for just the blind. So we have various of them. So as an organization, as a non-profit organization, we should be able to know the sector that we are financing. We should be able to know the sector that we are catering for, and we should be able to understand what the sector, you see, is just like industry for profit organization. We should be able to also, it is called sector in non-profit organization. So we should be able to know the sector that we are dealing with, and we should be able to understand the impact, the additional impact that we want to bring on board. And this is something that will form our mission in the long run. So we said here that, so the key areas, that's another important factor. The key areas where the NPO differentiates itself from other NPOs: the community, the organizations aim to serve. The fourth one is that with an understanding of the organization mission and vision, the management team can work with the board to develop strategies for success using a strategy map and balanced scorecard. While the ultimate responsibility for the strategy rests with the board, senior non-profit organization management will play a critical role in the strategy's execution and should therefore be involved in the process. So it should not just be the board alone that will be unraveling all these issues. They should try as much as possible to also carry the senior management along, because where the board members are not there to do all these things, the senior management will be the one to orchestrate some of these changes that will be commanded by the board. So another thing that's also important for us to do is to identify user value proposition. The concept of value proposition, the promise of value to be delivered, is based on a private sector model from the mid 1990s, adjusted to suit the NPO's landscape. It is important to remember that choosing one value proposition does not entirely dismiss other value propositions. So the intent is for an NPO to focus on the value proposition while still achieving acceptable threshold levels in the others. So the three LPOs adapted primary value propositions are, so like we said that there are so many value propositions, there will be so many things that an organization will be looking forward to achieve. And like I said earlier that NPOs, it is important for them to understand the role in which they want to play. They should understand the segment in which they want to play. They should understand the sector in which they want to make impact. So yeah, so like I said that there are various value propositions that an organization can play in. So we just want to see basically some of them. We just want to see basically some of these parts. So number one of the value proposition that an NPO can decide to take is operational excellence. So the low cost provider of a good or services, that is e.g. a food bank focusing on moving products at the lowest cost. They can also say that they want to go into product or service leadership. That is, they want to be an innovator in an industry. They want to be an e.g. and university that is addressing a previously unmet need by designing a business program specifically for entrepreneurs. So this is a need that has not been met. So an organization can then decide that, okay, one of our value proposition is that number one, we want to dwell in operational excellence. That is, we want to be a low cost provider of the goods or services that is expensive out there and that is not affordable for the poor masses. The second thing that can be a value proposition is that we want to be a product or service leadership. That is, we want to operate in an innovative industry by doing something that is not in existence before. Remember the first one, operational excellence, talks about we doing something that although is in existence, but we just feel that there should be a kind of improvement on what is existing before. So the third one talks about stakeholder intimacy. That is providing stakeholders with a unique and memorable experience, e.g. a youth swim club effort to develop its members both inside and outside the pool. So an NPO must decide which value proposition or combination of value propositions is most suitable to its mission while simultaneously maximizing its social impact. So the next step is that it is important to balance efficiency and effectiveness. Balance efficiency and effectiveness. We said that efficiency and effectiveness are critical. They are critical to mission-driven NPOs, and they go hand in hand with an organization choice of value propositions. Generally speaking, efficiency is about doing things right, while effectiveness is concerned with doing the right things. Remember, efficiency talks about doing things right, while effectiveness talks about doing the right thing. Let me just put it here. Effectiveness